Hello, I'm Ralph Ferguson, Managing Director of the Texas Tech University Ethics Center. And today we're going to visit with Senator Robert Krueger. Senator Krueger has been in service to our country as a congressman as well as an ambassador. Senator Krueger, you have seen and done much in the service of the nation. And I also want to take time to thank you for your service to our nation. And what we're going to discuss this morning is really a series of things. Your career has spanned, of course, our Congress, our Senate, and also international relations. You have been an ambassador in Burundi. You have seen many tragic things and have walked through many great experiences. Along with, I guess, the most challenging experience was the period of time of your service in Burundi, when there was an attempt on your life during your service there. And you've seen us as a country go through many, many shifts. And what I want to do is, since your retirement, what is your opinion of the distance the U.S. has come since your retirement? Have you seen significant shifts in our domestic practices and in our international practices? And can you kind of tell us whether your perceptions are that these domestic shifts have been good, and have our international practices been good? And in particularly when we speak about the continent of Africa.
Well, let me say first, yes, that in terms just of my own background, my time in ambassador at Burundi was probably the richest in my lifetime, but also had the privilege of serving as U.S. ambassador to Botswana.
Okay.
So Botswana was in that time, at least, my judgment, the best governed country in all of Africa. And remarkably honest government, free elections, high levels of education provided by the government, etc. Burundi had one of the most challenging positions of any nation in Africa. It is, even today, considered the poorest nation in the world. And the average income is a little over $100 a year per capita. So Burundi had huge challenges, but the challenges it particularly had that I addressed was that you had a long time domination by a minority ethnic group, the Tutsi, of the majority Hutu, made up 85%. And the Tutsi had, among other things, 100% of the army, 100% of the police, and basically 100% control, and were capable at that time in 1994, we're talking 20 plus years now. They could just slaughter people on the streets, and did. And so, in my own position, I thought, I represent the most powerful country in the history of the world. If I am silent, who is to speak?
Correct.
So I was outspoken, and there was an attempt on my life, and the bullets that hit my car missed, and on the spot 2 were killed and 8 grievously wounded, and surrounding cars and others of those died. But I can say that today, even though it is fragile, Burundi does have a democracy. It established its democracy at about the time I was leaving in '95, and it is a better country than it was. It is still very poor. It still has a good deal of injustice, but it is nothing like as bad as it was 20 years ago.
What do you think our neighbors feel listening to the language that encourages building a wall along the Rio Grande? What do you think is happening in our hemisphere south of the Rio Grande?
Well, I was at one point ambassador at large to Mexico and coordinator for Mexican affairs. So I have, and my home is in New Braunfels, Texas, which is not all that far from the Mexican border.
That's correct.
So I have some familiarity for years with Mexico. It is, of course, one of our 2 closest neighbors, more populous than our neighbor to the north. a very important country, not only for itself and for South America, but on its own and to us. We have a larger, most Americans don't know this, but we have larger lines of trade between USA and Mexico than with any other country in the world, by far. And Laredo, Texas is the largest inland port in the United States of America. So the volume of traffic and commerce between these two countries is huge. It is the largest, essentially unarmed border, I think, along with Canada, of anywhere around. And although there are some arms there, the mileage, but it's a very important relationship, and I think it is. But I also think that we need to recognize that every house has a door. Those inside the house decide when to open the door, when to close the door. And the United States is a nation of immigrants. We all came here from somewhere else except for the Native Americans. But that does not mean that we have room for all the people in the world who would like to come here. And that's just realistic. And so working out that relationship, it almost automatically offers some challenges. And as long as 20 and more years ago, I testified on this issue, and I think that there should be an appropriate number of people who can enter. But I think it is not good to have people entering illegally, because they are then unprotected. If they work, they're unprotected on a minimum wage and other health benefits.
Right.
And it also is a drain on the USA if someone who is here is away from his or her family. And if they bring the family, that person comes at a considerable language disadvantage and other things. So it is not a good situation. But the idea of building walls is hostile to America as a land of the free and the home of the brave and a land open to immigrants from everywhere.
Thank you, Senator, for the clarity on that particular issue. Appreciate it very much.
I have taught for many years, for over 50 years. From time to time I have taught at various universities, Duke University, Rice University, Texas Tech now, and others. And so I have seen students for a half century, basically, from time to time.
Okay.
Now, what strikes me that they should realize is that no nation in the history of the world has had as large an impact on other nations as the USA does today and in recent years, ever since the Second World War. And I was always taught that privilege includes responsibility to others.
Yes.
And Americans are privileged in the sense of living in a country that is so rich and has dominated the world in a way that no other country ever has, in terms of its economy, its culture, etc. But, my mother said to me, just remember, Robert, everything that you take from life, you have to give back to life. And I think America should realize that everything it takes from the world needs to give back to the world. We need to be conscious of people in other nations. We need to be conscious of people beyond our borders. That is increasingly the case. And what we have to recognize, and what I think, if we look at the broad patterns of history, we will recognize is that the broad patterns of history are to ever-increasing democratization, ever-increasing opportunities for more and more individuals. And we are a long way from where we, perhaps from any sort of universal equality. But when we compare feudal times with
Yes.
royalty and with other things, if we take the long view and the broad view, I think we are progressing, and I hope we continue to.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate those comments. Good.